Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
ScreamingBox Technology and Business Rundown.
Welcome to the ScreamingBox Technology and Business Rundown podcast. In this month's podcast, I, Dave Erickson, and my co-host, Botond are going to venture into the mysterious world of Chat GPT with our guest, Joshua Darrington. Joshua is a seasoned professional with a background in e-commerce and marketing. He transitioned into the field of Chat GPT education and is quickly becoming a top teacher of Chat GPT on Udemy. With a passion for technology and teaching, Joshua is dedicated to helping others understand and utilize the power of Chat GPT in their own businesses and projects. Today we're looking to find out exactly what Chat GPT is and how it can be applied to various business and technology solutions. So Joshua, is there anything you'd like to add to this sensationalized intro?
That was it. That was spot on. I'm just ready to get into it. And I like to say this is a very exciting field. Things are happening really fast, and there's new things coming out every day. So I'm excited to get into it.
So what is ChatGPT from a technical standpoint, Joshua?
And to make it simple, and I've had people ask me, what does it do? What is it, what is it for? And I just simply explain to them, it's the smartest person on the planet in your pocket. And as far as the technical aspect, what it is basically what they did was they took millions and millions of data sheets of conversations that humans have had back and forth, and they used a computer to basically try to understand what's going on in conversation and take it and put it in a chat box to where you can communicate in your natural language. That's without going into the actual hard wiring of it. That's the best explanation I can give you.
People seem to have a lot of different definitions of Chat GPT. Right. I think you kind of summed it up in a good way. Without getting into a lot of the technical details. You're a business guy, and somebody says to you, you should use Chat GPT, and the business guy has no clue what it is. He says, well, how do I use it? How do I access it? Right? So that might be kind of the first question there. How would somebody just start using Chat GPT?
Great question. So I've been introducing a lot of business owners. I have a few in my circle, and I've just been introducing them to it. I'm like, hey, this is the greatest thing since the internet, and it's going to be extremely huge. You got to get onto it now. So some of them have had some a little bit of apprehension to it, but what I've found is, it depends specifically on your business, right? So typically what I and a few of my friends have using it for is we send a lot of emails, copy, outreach, and things of that nature. But as far as a specific business owner, I have a buddy of mine who has a trucking business, and what he had to do was he had to send out contracts to get quotes for someone to do service for him. And I was telling him, I'm like, man, you can ask it anything, and it will do it for you. So what he did is just to stay up to date on technology. He asked ChatGPT to write him a contract for a siding, truck siding manufacturer or something like that, and it wrote him the entire contract, and it also wrote him interview questions so he can hire the right person. So again, the opportunities, and I'll say this specifically for me. So I spend about 10 hours a day on ChatGPT, and I use it a little bit different than the average user would, just because to me it's kind of like ingrained into my life. And, I have sometimes people ask me, well, what is its uses? Now it's so ingrained into me, I really can't see myself living without it. When people ask me, what does it do? It can do everything. So that's kind of the situation I find myself in.
So I was wondering, Joshua, so
Dolly, yeah.
You mentioned Dolly before, right? And it is something that I did try to use. And the issue I constantly ran into, what data set do we use? So I was wondering, what kind of data set did you end up using for ChatGPT? Like, if we're just talking numbers, is it terabytes, petabytes, whatever?
That's actually a great question. So one thing I realized is ChatGPT is a combination of data sets, right? And that's why, sometimes you will ask it the question and then you'll ask it a question like 2 minutes later and it'll give you different answers because it's trained on, I believe I don't know the exact number, but, and I'm not going to try and guess, but it's trained on at least 5 different main data sets. And what they do is they kind of like intertwine, and depending on the question you ask, will pull out each data set. But as far as terabytes and megabytes, I haven't ran it on my computer to that aspect yet. But I actually looked over the actual inner workings of ChatGPT just to make myself more knowledgeable. And I'm still studying, so I'll put it like that.
So there's 5 different data sets. Are they basically all text-based of conversations people have had?
It's a mix. So since the beginning of ChatGPT, what they did was, I think it's about 1.5 billion. They call them data points, and they're pretty much, like I say, text, conversations, and it's all intertwined. And that leads me to a next point with ChatGPT 4. I'm sure you all have heard about it, GPT-4. It's going to be 100 times stronger than ChatGPT 3.5, which is what we have now. So as far as, data sets, it's going to get a lot more complex, and, it's honestly going to get to the point where it's not going to matter. And because with ChatGPT 4, it's going to be 100 times stronger. I think it's about, don't quote me on this, but I think 100 billion data points and data sets. But my point in saying that is ChatGPT 4 is going to be 100 times stronger. And as far as like what exact data set it's trained on is not going to really matter in the near future.
That's ambitious. That's very ambitious. Well, what I'm wondering, still stuck on this topic.
No, hit me.
I apologize, but yeah, all right. This is going to be completely hypothetical. So let's say I have a customer support company, right, with millions of people employed. They are all chatting all day with different companies, different questions. How easy would it be to just integrate that into the system and just be like, okay, I want a customized solution for my company? And is it plug and play, or is there a very significant onboarding phase into the system?
Would it be a plug and play solution? Not necessarily, but close to it. Like I say, ChatGPT, and you're starting to see a lot of other AI models built on top of the GPT-3 platform, and they all do, slightly different things, but it's still in the same realm. But if you were to, try to integrate basically a ChatGPT into your customer service realm, it wouldn't be that difficult. Surprisingly enough, like I say, there's some things you could do out, and I'd say this is just from experience. I was able to tell as we all know, ChatGPT is trained based on 2021 data, so it doesn't go past 2021. But if ChatGPT knows enough about your organization and what you're trying to do, you will be able to train it fairly simple. I'll put it like that.
So if you were to incorporate Chat GPT, say, into your website as a customer service chatbot, you could train it to understand what your business is, who are the people in your business, where to route communication, and how to do responses. Is that correct?
Exactly. Fairly simple. Wow. Fairly simple. Not plug and play, but fairly simple.
So that mechanism for embedding Chat GPT into a website or even a mobile app, is that pretty easy or known, or what does that consist of?
It is fairly simple. If you were to do that, what you would have to do is just a few things. So number one, ChatGPT, you have to bring on the API onto your own service, which just came out. So that's number one. Once you do that, you can train it on, you can say, okay, this is my company. my company is X company. We do X. We sell X. Our goal is to do X. And with the natural language processing of ChatGPT, it's already able to understand, okay, this is the company. This is what they do. These are the type of questions customers may ask. This is what they will want. This is how we should respond to certain questions. And from there, aside from API cost, it wouldn't be too much of a hassle, to say the least.
So I've seen basically all of my friends being amazed and blown away by the capabilities of ChatGPT. And I was wondering, like, how sensitive is it to spelling errors or even grammatical errors?
Grammatical errors very, I want to say 99%, 99.9% zero, no grammatical errors. As far as accuracy errors, I think, and this is what's going to happen when ChatGPT 4 comes out, and it'll be connected. I believe it'll be connected to the internet. Don't quote me. The accuracy errors will go away drastically too. There's also a little side note. There's a website named u.com that is connected with ChatGPT, almost like what Microsoft and Bing are trying to do, and it's able to use the internet. So as far as, like I said, as time goes on, I think, like, and we have to remember, this is the beta version, this is the first version, and it's already this amazing. So imagine 2 years from now, you know, that's where it's going to get a little scary. But as far as like grammatical errors, zero. Technical errors, you know, it's getting there. You know, and it comes to my point, how I mentioned earlier about the 5 data sets. Some are better than others. So you may ask it a question and, you know, it may give you this one answer and that's not really the right answer. But if you ask it again, the other data set will become more prevalent and give you the right answer. So overall, it's fairly accurate, but you still, especially as a coder and from a technical aspect, I will still, you know, double check my work.
So if I'm asking a question to ChatGPT, which makes no sense at all, full of grammatical errors, how sensitive is it to that?
No, it's not sensitive at all. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, to test it out, what I would do sometimes is just type in, you know, mistakes and, you know, misspelled words and etc. And it will fairly accurately predict exactly what I'm trying to say. Funny enough, I was looking at something the other day where this guy, he wrote in the Chat GPT like a baby would, like, you know, with you know, just like a 4-year-old would, with the horrendous mistakes and things like that. And Chat GPT,
yeah, that's exactly what I mean,
fairly dissected it. You know, it understood exactly what he was trying to say, and he also said talk to me back like a baby, and it understood that. And you know, so that's what I thought that's what kind of like blew my mind about the real capabilities of it. Like, you know, that it understands the, you know, the what would you say, the jokes of human communication.
So it understands if I say, explain to me like I'm 5.
That's one of my best uses. So what I do is, like I say, there's many complex subjects out there, like the nuclear fission and black hole theory, et cetera, et cetera. And what I do is, you know, just to accelerate my learning, that's why it's so ingrained with me now. I say, okay, well, explain this to me like I'm 5, or explain what happened in the War of 1812, or what happened in the French Revolution War, etc. And just ask it to break it down simply, and I can ask a question about that, and then ask it to go deeper in depth about that. So that's one of the best uses of it. You know, if you want to just test out, you know, the capabilities of it, if you're a person out there who wants to do that, ask it to explain the hardest subject you could think of like you're 5, and, you know, it'll give you a fairly digestible answer.
So I was wondering, like, these 5 data sets,
Don't quote me on that.
how do they rise to the surface? How does ChatGPT decide which one to use at which moment?
That's a great question. I just from my experience, I believe is how you phrase the question, and I think, like I said, as time goes on, they will become, you know, more intertwined, so you won't be able to tell. But I just noticed, like, you know, when I ask it a question and I ask it again, you know, it'll give me, you know, a reworked version of that same answer. But as far as how does it decide which to put in top priority, I would say it's just how you phrase your question. I think some data sets, and this is just hypothetically, or a theory, I think some data sets do better with, like, say, a simple question, and some do better with a more detailed question with a lot of nuance. So let's say you were trying to write an email, and you could say, write me an email for a store. I'm having a 50% off sale, right? Just a very simple email. And, some data set will do better and just write you a quick email versus when you say, write me an email for a flower store. We're selling teal flowers and we want to do a 50% off sale to our returning customers for this XXY reason, right? And some data sets do better than that. So as far as how I can tell, that's just a theory of, I think it just depends on, what question you're asking and how simple versus complex it is.
How much power do we need to train ChatGPT? Is it like a GPU or a room of GPUs? Or
I think it's an A. Yeah,
wow.
I'm gonna say this, but like I said, I don't know how accurate it is, but I think and this is just from, don't believe everything you read on Twitter, but I'm just gonna quote this. I think Chat GPT was like 100 or something gigabytes.
Whoa.
So that's a flash drive. I just bought a flash drive for 125 gigabytes. So like I said, I don't know how accurate that is, but I don't think it's very expensive. Now, when ChatGPT 4 comes out, or I say ChatGPT 4, it's really GPT 4. That may be a lot, lot more data, but yeah, exactly. But for now, it's not. To my knowledge, it's not that much.
So it's not like one of Google's AIs, which takes like a whole data center to train.
No, it's not. And that's what's so amazing about it. And I think, because if you think about it, if it was, like, to say, one of Google's system, not to poop on Google. I like Google. I love you, Google. Are you watching this? I think that's why they haven't released it to the public, is because they know, if we had 1 million people to use this, the place will be on fire, pretty much. So I think that's what what kind of separates ChatGPT and allows them to distribute it to the public in a manner, is because it's so compact and useful.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about.
Let's use your business idea of an e-commerce site selling t-shirts.
Okay.
I have a e-commerce site doing t-shirts. How could I use Chat GPT?
So, okay, so if I had an e-commerce site. Speaking of this, I'm gonna put this on the record. When DALL-E 2 first came out, I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. So what I did is I created an e-commerce store. I was actually the first one in the world, for the record, to make a DALL-E 2 AI generated clothing store. Right? And so what I did was, it was a lot of people on Reddit posting their their DALL-E 2 art, and what I'll do, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I have a website where you can go print it out, and I got a couple sales from that, but I just realized, maybe it's not the most scalable, and I was still in the hunt, and then that's when ChatGPT came out. But if I had an e-commerce store and I wanted to incorporate ChatGPT, one of the first ways I would do it is for my brand story. A lot of times, if you're, when you're an e-commerce store specifically, there's a lot of, it's a science to it, right? And there's a lot of moving parts that you have to connect perfectly so that you can, generate sales, right? So number one, I would use it for my brand story. And what I mean by brand story is, let's say, okay, you started the store, it was you by yourself, you wanted to create a sustainable way to make t-shirts using organic fabrics, and etc. So what I would do, I would go to ChatGPT, enter in, my name is Joshua. I started a store back in 2018. I wanted to create a sustainable way to create t-shirt fabrics. We use the best quality materials. We recycle, etc., etc. ChatGPT, create me a brand story. And what most people would do is just take what I said originally and put it on the store. I just want to create, my name is Joshua, 2018, brand, e-commerce, etc. But ChatGPT will construct it in a way to where it's very flowing, and it just makes beautiful sense, right? So that's number one. That's number one way I use it. Number two, email. right? I do a lot of emails. You know what I did, and I know, and there's a lot of people out there who agree, is emails take a lot of brain power, right? And throughout the day, you lose brain power. But what ChatGPT does is it allows you to focus your brain power and energy on other things that matter in your business. So, what I would do is use it for number two, emails, and just have it to write. Let's see, either a daily email, a sale email. There's people who pay thousands and thousands of dollars a month just to have people write emails for them, because emails is like, you're focused on this, ads, and everything like that. Emails is like it's another realm, coming from an e-commerce store owner in my experience. But anyway, number two, emails. Number three, brand copy and product descriptions, right? Product descriptions it's a part of the science of e-commerce. But like I said, as time goes on, if you're writing them in the middle of the day, you're not going to be as effective, and your brain energy is not going to be able to produce exactly how you want to do. So what I would do is tell ChatGPT, this is my product. It's made of these materials, X, Y, Z, and also include the goal, right? So my goal is to convert, my goal is to get sales, and my ideal customer profile is a person of X, Y, Z. They're this age, they do this, depending on what you're selling, of course. And when you enter it in that way, ChatGPT constructs a beautiful product description with your goal in mind and allows you to generate sales. I've used it on a few stores myself, and it just works. So I think especially if you're an e-commerce owner, this is something you can use every day. It's better than Google, and instead of paying someone thousands and thousands of dollars per month to do emails for you or to do store optimization, you can think of ChatGPT as a free employee. It's free for right now. They come out with a premium version, but it's free for right now. And, you can 10x your business. So that's how I use it as an e-commerce store.
So if you have Chat GPT, you may have several projects, quote projects, that you would need Chat GPT to work on. Does
Right.
Chat GPT have a way where you can like literally set up a project in Chat GPT and say, okay, Chat GPT, I need emails for these things, or I need brand copy, and so you have a Chat GPT set up for brand copy, you have a Chat GPT set up for email. Does it work that way, or how does it work in that sense for managing different workflows?
What I've noticed lately is there's a lot of businesses that are branching out using the GPT-3 platform and doing specific things like copy AIs for like email and copy pretty much. And there's some, AI related businesses that do branding and things of that nature. But as far as to answer your question, you can most definitely do that in ChatGPT. It will save your conversation. They came out with that new feature where it'll save your conversation. So if you say, create me, emails for this XYZ business, first question I would ask, what type of emails do I need for this type of business? Okay, it'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, on number 2, write me some email headings for that topic. It'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, write me the first paragraph of that email for 1 and 2, and then spit it out. So, as far as like to answer your question, as far as like projects, will it start to a project? Most definitely. And there's actually, it's not the best now for the coders out there, so you're still safe. But there's actually GPT 3.5, which is ChatGPT, does a fairly decent job with coding and creating your project from scratch. There's actually a website, I think it's called freepixelart.com if you're out there. And what they did was they asked ChatGPT to make them a website to where they can host their pixel art. And just by asking the right question, it coded the entire website from scratch. And the website looks halfway decent. So if you go in there, you'll be able to vote. It'll be pixel art, and it's just, it looks like a 90s website. But this person has zero coding experience, and I think that's absolutely amazing for it to be able to code them websites. So, yeah, just to answer your question, it can start to a brand and projects from scratch. So
I've used some AI platforms, Jasper and Writer. They're basically AR writing platforms and a little bit of Chat GPT. I have found that for short pieces of writing, like emails and even some social media posts, they seem to basically generate content that's reasonable. Meaning you can take that content, it doesn't need a lot of editing, just a little bit of editing, and it's good. If you wanted them to write a piece of content that is, a chapter in a book, right? It's not very accurate in the sense that you have to do a lot of editing, and it seems like there's kind of a limit. There's a sweet spot where ChatGPT produces written content that doesn't need a lot of editing and it's usable. There's this line where ChatGPT is you put in more content, or if it has to write more content, as it writes more content, it seems to not be as accurate in the sense that you have to do more editing. And there just comes a point where, okay, if I had it to write a blog post for 2,000 words, I would have to spend an hour to edit it. Whereas if I had to write a blog post of 2,000 words, it would take me an hour and 15 minutes. So maybe it's better if I just write it myself. But if I had to write a short, paragraph on Chat GPT, it could write a paragraph and I would look at it and I would only need a minute or 5 minutes to edit it. And that seems like a great use of time, that Chat GPT, because it would take me a half hour if I had to write that myself, right? So there's kind of this limit. I don't know if it works in other aspects. Have you seen that limit as well? Because my experience with it is just very small sample of a few. And do you think that's improving?
That's a great point, and you're actually correct. But one thing I did notice, and this is what is kind of, you'll start to hear a little bit more about this, is prompt engineering.
Okay.
Right, and I actually think as time goes on, prompt engineering is going to be a big business, and I'll tell you why. So,
well, what is prompt engineering?
Simply put, the type of questions you ask ChatGPT, right? So I touched on this a little bit earlier. The difference is basically asking ChatGPT to write you an email for this versus asking ChatGPT to write you an email for this, but you also include your goal, your ideal customer profile, your some of the type of things you want to consider. What type of tone do you want to have? Do you want to be a professional? Do you want to be witty? Do you want to be serious, comical, etc.? But yeah, simply put, I think as time goes on, that's what's going to separate the good prompts and the good outcomes from the great outcomes, or because ChatGPT is basically good, it's serviceable, but in order to get what you actually want, it's going to come down to producing the best prompts and asking the right question, with your desired goal in mind. And that's one thing I've noticed. Like I say, I use it, all day pretty much, and and I notice sometimes I'll get a little bit lazy and just, write me an email for this, and, it doesn't produce the best results, but I have to realize, like, in order to get the best outcomes, I had to put in the best prompt. So, as time goes on, I think it will get better, by taking a simple prompt and, expanding upon it and kind of reading our minds in a sense. But, and I think that's what GPT-4 specifically. But for now, in order to produce a really great, or have ChatGPT to produce, I'm kind of in the grain, a really great answer, you're going to have to input a really great prompt.
Like many things in technology, there's what I would call an art, right? And so for ChatGPT, there is this art that comes with experience and understanding. So a person who's just trying to get into ChatGPT, they may find that it doesn't produce that great a result because they themselves haven't done enough, I guess, A/B testing to figure out what generates it. On the other hand, someone who's experienced kind of already knows what to do, and so it's much more efficient. Well, I guess that's where training courses like the one that you have on Udemy can come in handy. I assume you have a section on the prompt engineering,
Right.
and I'm sure that gets into it. Okay, so that kind of puts it into perspective. I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying more about application.
Okay.
It seems like for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, probably one of the most useful aspects or most useful things that you could do with Chat GPT on the front end is to refine some of your marketing content, right?
Very so. Yeah.
And this could be rewriting content on your website. It could be rewriting some blog posts. And again, it may not give you perfect copy, but it'll give you copy that saves you time. That may be one way to do it. It seems like answering emails or answering questions from potential customers is another aspect, right? I assume that you could probably set up some customer personas and then put together some questions that you would normally get from some of these customers about your business, and then Chat GPT would then produce answers, and then you could kind of just use those answers as those questions come in.
And
Yeah.
I was gonna say to add on to that, you can ask ChatGPT to create you some. So let's say you have a product, right? You can ask ChatGPT what type of people will be in the market for this product, and from my experience, it's fairly accurate, right? And then let's say, okay, so let's say you have this product. These are the type of people who will be in the market for this type of product. Okay, well, ChatGPT, if I want to sell to customer number 2, what are some of the pain points they have, and how can I solve those pain points? And then spit it out. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So, you can really get really deep, and like I say, from my experience, it's about 90% accurate. And if that's your industry, of course you will know, more. But for the most part, just as like a brainstorming exercise, it does, fairly well.
So you could kind of ask Chat GPT something like, I am trying to sell t-shirts to heavy metal enthusiasts in the age range between 15 and 30, and what are the product features that they are most interested in?
100%.
And Chat GPT would spit out a list of stuff that demographic of heavy metal music listeners are interested in as far as product features for t-shirts. Is that correct?
100%.
Uh-huh.
And just to add on to that, I had so one of my mentors, he has a huge guitar collection, vintage guitars, and I was telling him, I'm like, man, this ChatGPT thing, this is like a couple months ago, a month or so ago, and I was telling him like, yo, this is new. So I was like, I tell you what, give me your best guitar, and I'll write you a product description for it. And it was like some 1971 Gibson Flying V, maybe guitar, I don't know. I never heard of the guitar. So I said, okay, what's the model number? What is it? Okay, boom. ChatGPT, write me a product description for XYZ. Spit it out. I read it back to him, and it was a silence. And he said, wow, do it for this one. And I did it for this one. And I did it for this one. And his mind was blown, basically. And I used it, actually built him a website that contained, all of that data. And he was, like I say, mind blown. But yeah, how does it know about that specific guitar? I don't know. But that's what kind of like freaks me out about what I'm ready for the change. But with the next iteration of ChatGPT, with the 4, if it's going to be 100 times stronger than that, who knows where we're going to be? So that's just something a little bit funny I thought about.
All this talk about prompts and answers got me thinking, is there any way to look at the process of what is happening when ChatGPT constructs a given answer?
In real time, I don't think so. But there is one of my friends, my good buddy, sent me a pretty much the white paper, I think that's what they call it, of what's happening when you enter in a prompt and where it goes to and things of that nature. But as far as real time, I don't think so. And I think they want to keep that a secret, maybe.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
That would be a great question to ask Chat GPT.
Good point. I'm going to do it when I get off here.
It also makes me wonder, like, where do the coding answers come from? I mean, must be Stack Overflow, right? Where else?
I seen something the other day, and I think some of the coders are getting upset, like, "Hey, well, you're stealing our answers," and I don't know. I think now. Don't quote me. I think it may pull a little bit from there in GitHub and things of that nature, but where exactly? I think that's a trade secret.
In some ways, coding is easier and harder than, say, text content. And the reason for that is coding as a science is based on a very specific structure,
Right.
and the syntax of words and commands are very fixed and not
Right.
flexible,
Exactly.
right? So from that standpoint, if an AI really understood all the rules of coding and the syntax of coding, it can produce some decent code. The
Right.
problem is that it's missing the consciousness to decide if that's actually the right way the code should be written. Because,
Right.
like speaking, you can write code to achieve the same goal 10 different ways. And out of those 10 different ways, one of them will be really efficient, and one of them will be
Exactly.
really inefficient, and one of them will be fast in this way, but not fast in another way. And so the code that it produces can't make the decision as to what's best. It just produces something based on rules. That probably can save time. For a developer, they can say, hey, I need some standard code for a login process.
Right.
And it would spit out a login process, and then the coder can go through that and say, okay, I can clean this up, or I can apply it this way, or I can do that. I think for
Right.
large coding projects, it probably will always have that disadvantage of not being conscious, right?
Right. And that leads me to another point. So, like how I said earlier about the data sets, right? So, just as a like I said, I learned a little bit of coding this year. HTML, CSS, and after like a week or so of that, I said I'll just pay somebody to do it because y'all got a
Well,
special
that's why
job.
we're in business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey man, like I had the time to learn and everything like that, but I'm like, I'll leave it to the experts. But anyway, so what I did, I asked ChatGPT, and this is just when I was testing out the capabilities in the beginning. I asked it to code me a tic-tac-toe game, and each time I would get a very different answer. And some of them will be very quick and simple, efficient, and some of them will be to the point where ChatGPT wouldn't even be able to finish it. So that goes with your point about how the human part. If you were tasked to code a tic-tac-toe game, you would say, okay, so let me think PHP. Say, okay, we'll just do it this way, and then boom. But I don't think ChatGPT is there yet to where it could say, okay, well, this is the most efficient way for this outcome. Let's do it this way. So
Yeah, I'm sure. Like it would produce just the best results if you ask something relatively simple. Say, for example, how do I do this specific type of string manipulation? I'm sure it would have the perfect answer, like every time, consistently. But a funny story. One of my friends who's big into crypto, it's a passion of his, and he's like, okay, ChatGPT, write me a bot which is gonna train my crypto. And he calls me like, bro, ChatGPT wrote me this code. We just need to start it, launch it. It's gonna work. And I'm like, bro, what language is that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just like 10 different function calls, nothing about what any of it is
but it
supposed to
looks
do.
good though. Yeah, so that's the thing.
It just
Yeah,
works.
with us non-coders, I learned, but yeah, I'm not a coder. But to us, it tells you the answer, and it'll make it seem like, hey, this is the answer right here, But until we have some,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, a expert in there, you're like, oh, like what? But
It seems like Chat GPT, I mean, obviously chat is the clue, is really orientated
exactly,
more towards written communication versus coding, right?
right,
And I think though that there's two aspects of Chat GPT where I think there's opportunity for business people, right, and even
right,
technologists. One is, there obviously is an art and an experience, and so people who are using Chat GTP to find solutions and to do things, they can sell their services, because the reality is not everybody's going to be able to use Chat GPT and get great results. There's a learning curve, and business people are very busy, and so for them to try to have that learning curve, it might be much more cost effective for them to hire a Chat GPT expert or agency to do the work that they need, because they'll just do it faster and more efficiently because they have that experience. So there's that side of it. I think the other side of it that is a really good opportunity is for businesses who are trying to, do content flows, large volumes of content flows, right? And that's going to be part of it. And then I think really the third opportunity that isn't as explored yet is really the integration, right? Because it seems to me that Chat GPT is kind of this standalone thing, and you can use it if you're interfacing directly with it, but integrating it into a business and integrating it into digital products, I think that's the area that it still seems to need a lot of work in, right? And there's going to be people who are going to develop an expertise for doing that, and it's going to be much more cost effective for them to do it than for somebody else to try to learn how to do that. So I think those are kind of some of the three opportunities, and the one that I think is most interesting is actually the integration. Now, you mentioned that they just came out with an API. What do you know about the Chat GPT API?
Not like I said. I literally read. I think it was like 10 o'clock when I seen. It was on Twitter. I seen somebody.
It literally came out like yesterday.
Yeah, like literally, and I sent it to myself. Just so I can make sure I check it out. But I think, like I say, I think it, as far as what I know, it's like I say, it's openly available, and you can go sign up. And me, like I say, I tested out that coding, and I'm like, hey man, hey. But like I say, I most definitely learn more about it. But it is available, and like I say, it just came out literally last night, and I went to sleep on it. So yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of experience with APIs, and APIs are kind of like cars. You can get one that is a Ferrari, and you can get one that is a Fiat Uno, right? And you may not know what it is. You may just be saying, hey, I need your API, and the API could be really good and really fast and really easy to work with, or it can be an absolute nightmare and not work. So, APIs are a blind box in that sense, right?
Right. And like I said, I think as time goes on, we'll like I said, I'm gonna stay up to date on what's going on with the use case of it. But to your point, I think the integration hasn't really happened yet. And like I say, I think that's where one of the most major opportunities are. Like if someone can figure out how to integrate ChatGPT into, I know they've done a little bit of this with like Chrome extensions, but it's not nothing too major. It's still based around ChatGPT. But as far as like specific use cases, like and speaking of this, when you ask ChatGPT for business ideas, that's one of the main ones it gives you. And time after time, like I use ChatGPT just to brainstorm sometimes, like, okay, what about this area? What about this? But time after time, and if you can go, whoever's really listening to this right now, you can ask, give me some business ideas, and it will keep telling you chatbot integration into businesses. And me, I know that's not my personal area of expertise, so I had to figure out a way. But for the coders out there who really, want to get into it, I think that's a major opportunity, and there's a huge moat that many people who like me, I love ChatGPT, but I just know that's not my stilo or my my area. So I can't get into it, or I can, but it wouldn't be me. But for those out there who really want to make a difference, and quick story. So I actually went on this Twitter space talking about ChatGPT, and there was this guy on there. Everybody else was a proponent. Yeah, ChatGPT, woo. And this coder on there, this guy name was Stack something, and he got on there and he was like, yeah, well, ChatGPT, I've been hearing about it. Honestly, I think it's a wash. And I said, okay, well, and he said, yeah, I've been hearing about it. I tested a little bit. It's not really nothing major. It makes a lot of errors, et cetera, et cetera. And I was one of the speakers, and I told him, I said, well, honestly, this is what it's going to come down to. And like I say, I use ChatGPT 10 hours a day, so I think I can speak on this. I think it's going to come down to those who are going to use it versus those who don't. And just like when the internet came out, there was a lot of businesses who, the internet, we do it the right way, and the internet came and scooped up and washed out a lot of businesses just because some people were too stubborn to, develop with the technology. And that's what that guy sounded like. And I was telling him, I'm like, man, okay, I don't want to go into the iRobot future either, but it's either you be on the right side of history or on the wrong side. And he sounded like he wanted to be on the wrong side. But for everyone out there, if you're listening to this, I believe you're interested. You want to be on the right side of history. And that's just evolution is going to continue to progress. And you just got to go with the flow, roll with the punches.
Well, a lot of businesses are starting to ask the question, how can we use Chat GPT and how can I apply it to my business? I'm curious, we've kind of talked a little bit about the written side.
Right.
How is Chat GPT with numbers? Like, can you ask it accounting questions or can you ask it to solve math problems? I'm just curious. I've never even thought of asking it to do that, but...
Accounting, yes. If you give it the data set and ask it to, separate this is that and this is that, it will do that. But as far as like, if you say something like Jack had 4 apples, Sarah took away 1. How many apples? It doesn't. I don't know. I don't know why, but it just doesn't.
It doesn't do well with that.
Yeah, it just doesn't compute. But I mean, hopefully maybe in the future. But I'm like, it does well with the text, and who does math nowadays anyway? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know that a lot of AI, particularly through machine learning,
Right.
takes large data sets, samples of numbers and other data, census data or other data, and then analyzes the data and puts together summaries of the data. Is Chat GPT good for that, or is that better to be left with machine learning programming?
I believe so. If you, like I said, I think in that particular case, it comes down to what you input, and I believe if you input and word it correctly, it will give you a great outcome, from my experience.
Yeah, that art of prompt engineering, I think, really starts showing its head with Chat GPT. It doesn't seem to be something that people are talking a lot about.
To your point, I was gonna say it's starting to some whispers. I think the people who have been really ingrained in it understand. But like I say, for everyone here, depending on when you listen, if you listen to this in March, you have about 2 years before ChatGPT becomes mainstream.
Yeah, it becomes mainstream when all those high schoolers start saying, "Dear ChatGPT, please write my term papers. Please write my homework assignments."
Yeah,
that's already
That's
happening.
already happening.
Is.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah, I just read this article today, and like some schools are so mad, like you couldn't believe they are so mad.
I'm telling you, I was gonna say I put in. Hey, I'm sorry, schools, if you don't beat me up for this, but I put in a area in my course to where you can bypass the plagiarism and AI detectors. So now schools. I seen a Forbes article, like I say, to your point, where they were talking about how is teachers gonna combat ChatGPT, and so it's a whole debacle right now going on. So
well, in all honesty, probably one of the easier ways is that the teachers say that your homework and your term papers have to be handwritten.
Yeah, you got to go back to the old school.
Yeah,
Yeah, but still, you can get ChatGPT to write it and then copy it down.
That's true.
Easy
And I'm sure there are those students who will do that.
Yeah, hey.
Oh yeah, but the beautiful thing about it is like Okay, ChatGPT is able to solve all these things, right? And students are using it, and not only students, but people who are paid to write, which is a bit more offensive in my opinion. Like you get a writer for a video, and they're like, "Hey, ChatGPT, this is the title of the video, this is the
5
topic,
minutes later,
write me the
back.
script." Yeah, and then what they do is they go to another AI and they ask, "Okay, rewrite this," which is specifically to eliminate plagiarism. That's like amazing. It was like 3-4 step process, different AI every time. And by the end, it just passes with flying colors.
You know, I do a lot of marketing content writing, and I've experimented. I mean, Jasper is basically the GPT-3 engine, and they just wrote a lot of integration and other things on top of it. And I've used Jasper for marketing content, and I have found from an efficiency standpoint, I like, it's better to have it write an outline, right? If you say, I want an outline on a paper for this, it's usually better because then it puts it in a nice structure. The problem I have found if I have it write the whole article is that no matter what prompts you have for emotion, it's not a conscious being, so it really has trouble making things sound emotionally exciting or to put in the emotion, and the time to edit becomes much longer because you have to read everything. Well, how do I want to change that? What do I want to do that? And I've just found that the most efficient way to use AI for marketing writing for shorter content, like 1,000 words or 2,000 words, is to have it produce an outline, so at least you have a structure, and that helps speed up your writing. And then you just go down the structure and say, oh, okay, I can write about that, I write this, and just fill in the tree, and you get much better product. Then it's a time saver, and it still allows you to put the emotion into the writing.
Right.
That's just my experience with it.
Yeah, and and your own little flavor. Like I say, some people are, some people are going to use it to do everything, and some people are, are going to, do it to just, freshen up ideas, etc. But I think, when GPT-4 comes out and it's 100 times stronger than what it is now, it's going to be able to build you an entire business, code the software, tell you where to upload it, run you the marketing copy, this, that, etc. In 5 minutes. So, and the people, it's almost like the people who are using it have an extreme superpower. And to your point about if they had you write the essays in class, I've mentioned this often. I'm like, ChatGPT is basically like having the smartest person on the planet in your pocket. You can ask it anything you want to ask it, and it'll have a fairly good answer for you, laid out right there. So, and then like I say, 90, this is what blows my mind. 97% of people don't even know about it. And when the ultra strong version of it does come out, they're still not going to know about it. So the people who are actually using it and know about it, and you're going to have an extreme edge upon the people who don't. So that's something I think about every day.
So that brings me around to a different sort of question. Like, is ChatGPT going to be able to understand other languages, or does it already?
It already does. What I did,
It does.
So I learned you can take. So what I did just as an experiment, I went to some Chinese website. I've never heard of it. Don't even know what it says. I copied all the text and I put it into ChatGPT and said, translate this to English, and poof. It's a reason I'll say. I mean, it's almost like Google Translate, but with ChatGPT, you can do. I would say it understands, I think, a little bit more languages actually, and and it understands context, and you can ask it to translate it, and then if you wanted to translate it back, okay, make it funnier, and then translate it back. So yeah, as far as like, does it understand other languages? Absolutely.
So obviously, asking Chat GPT what to do, the prompt engineering, being familiar with how it works and how you can apply it. I assume these are all things you're covering in your training, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep. And like I said, I know there's many people who reached out to me. There was a guy who reached out to me and let me know that he had a hedge fund, and he wanted to know how ChatGPT can help him code a software that is able to correlate gold with the U.S. dollar. And I know now ChatGPT isn't connected to the internet, but there's a website called u.com for the people out there that is connected to the internet, and we use u.com to able to help him in his hedge fund. So there's many ways you can skin the cat, so they say, and it's really unlimited use.
So you.com, it's you.com or
YOU.com.
uh-huh.
And like I said, it's honestly, here's the thing. So I've been using it, fairly frequently, and I went back to use Google, and it felt like I was going back in the past. And I only used it for like, when I did the experiment, I only used it for like 10 minutes. And when I went back to use Google, it felt like, man,
Yeah.
and that was a little bit freaky. I'm like, and that's kind of why Google is freaking out a little bit. And to another point, that's why you're seeing a lot of people getting laid off, because they understand the technology, and they're not going to say this to the public, but they understand what's going on behind the scenes. And to my point earlier, I was telling everyone, you have to use this. You have to use it, because what's going to happen is, especially if you're in an organization, because it's going to come down to one person soon, very soon, will be able to do the jobs of 10 people, specifically in writing and that whole sphere. So if you're not using it, you're pretty much opening up yourself for that one super employee. They'll get paid 3 people's salaries, to do the work of 10 people. So the Google, Microsoft, some of them, Amazon, they're starting to understand this. They're not going to say it out to the public. They're just going to, slowly chop them off.
We've seen that in the industry, that a technology comes along and it allows for increased productivity. But what we have found is, to your point, in a sense, the people who actually can use that technology to actually see the productivity increase, they themselves need to become experienced and educated.
Right.
And even once that happens, it still needs other people to be involved. So yes, it reduces headcount in a way, but then it requires different resources, right?
Exactly.
And Google, yeah, they're laying off people, a very small percentage, not even getting close to anything of what they hired in 2022. But they aren't laying off their AI department. They're probably going to be focusing more on it. And I do agree that Chat GPT has the opportunity to become very productive, but it would not surprise me if Chat GPT-4 or the GPT-4 engine will basically be a monetized product. And basically they'll let you use GPT-3 for free, and if you want to get the benefits of 4, you're going to probably have to pay. And once you have to start paying for something, then that kind of changes the equation a little bit. But I think it's all important, and to kind of come back to it, being knowledgeable and educated about ChatGPT is really what's going to allow you to see a benefit. So maybe in that vein, you can talk a little bit about your courses and what you have on Udemy, and how people can find your courses and use them to grow.
I actually wasn't going to create the course, but what happened was, when I looked, I said, okay, well, I need to learn more about this. And YouTube videos, YouTube is okay for good information, but a lot of times, if you really want to really grow in something, you need structured information, because a lot of people tell you this and then that, and then, you try to put it all together, it's not going to work. But I went and looked on Udemy, and there was no information. There was, one course, only one, and it had to do with chatbot servers or something. I don't know, something not what I'll try to learn about. So, I actually wasn't doing anything major at the time, so I said, well, I guess this is me. So what I did is I studied. I was actually already using ChatGPT a lot, but I said, okay, well, I need to put all of what I know, and I still add information today. I have some videos to shoot today, into one course, to where people can understand, okay, for this specific task, and this is what I want to do. I want to learn. There's few things I have in my course included. Use cases. So if you're just a beginner and you want to know, okay, well, what can ChatGPT do? What are some of the use cases? What is its range? I talk about all of the use cases, and what a lot of people want to know is, how can you make money from it? That's one of the things I thought about. Okay, well, this is the most amazing technology since the internet. how can I be on the right side and make some money from it? So I talk about many different ways about how you can make money from it. Also, I include some secret ways that I've added, that I've just discovered. I'm like, well, nobody's talking about this, and I included that as well. Also, I include some funny things. There's actually one section in there that talks about how you can use ChatGPT as a lawyer. You can ask it to give you legal advice. Speaking of that, there was a ChatGPT bot, per se, that actually went to court as a lawyer, and I think it won his case. They're actually trying to go to the Supreme Court. So it can act as a comedian. One of the funniest ways I found is that you can you can use ChatGPT to speak to your favorite character. So let's say you have a favorite movie, you have a favorite TV show, and you just want to just have a little time to burn. Okay, let me go talk to Eisenberg or something like that. So there's many use cases. I have a couple podcast episodes just covering the latest news on what's going on in the sphere. And then, like I say, this is all I do. Honestly, like I said, I'm on it 10 hours a day testing, speaking to people, seeing how it can help different industries. So I'm getting, I had one lady ask me, she runs a county fair website, and wants to know how I can help her, in her situation. And I'm just, listening to how her business operates. Okay, so here's some things you could do. And I had another guy contact me. He has a publisher, and he heard about ChatGPT. He said he's in the Netherlands, and he wanted to know how I can help him. So I'm just all over the place, learning. Every day I study. I'm all the hashtags, the discourse and everything like that. Just like I said, I learned, this is my life now, and I can't imagine not going without the internet, aka ChatGPT. So that's what I do.
That's what it takes to be a good teacher and instructor. How can people find you on Udemy? They just type in your name, Joshua, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Currently, right now, I'm the #1, so I'm trying to hold my spot up. But yeah, if you type in ChatGPT, I should be the first one to pop up. The course is called, one second, I don't want to mess this up, ChatGPT, the complete ChatGPT guide from zero to hero.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so fairly simple. Like I said, I want to take, for those out there who want to learn just the basics and what it can do, there's something for you. And also those who have heard about ChatGPT and want to know, okay, what are some of the advanced ways I can use, and for specific use cases, there's something in there for them as well.
Perfect. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for being on the ScreamingBox Technology and Business Rundown podcast. For our listeners, we will be releasing this, and a month later we'll have our next podcast. Look forward to joining everyone then, and until then, stay happy and healthy.
Perfect, man. This was beautiful. I enjoyed the experience, and like I said, I love the the podcast. And for all the listeners out there, this is one of the best places you can get information from the people in the business. So this is great.
Well, thank you very much, Joshua.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for taking this journey with us. Join us for our next exciting exploration of technology and business in the first week of every month. Please help us by subscribing, liking, and following us on whichever platform you're listening to or watching us on. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and please let us know any subjects or topics you would like us to discuss in our next podcast by leaving a message for us in the comment sections or sending us a Twitter DM. Till next month, please stay happy and healthy.